At exactly 5:23 p.m. on March 28, a U.S. pilot flying an F-18 Super Hornet received a short but heavy message, 3 words that had the potential to shatter the calm of an Eid al Adha evening. It's time. Within minutes, 4 of America's most advanced fighter jets would move into one of the boldest escalation operations ever carried out, launching precision strikes against Iran's Natanz nuclear facility, one of the most heavily protected strategic targets in the region. The pilot had already been seated in the cockpit for 12 minutes, while the General Electric F-414-GE-400 engines idled, rumbling steadily like a reminder of the power waiting to be unleashed. Under each wing, the F-18 carried precision-guided munitions like JDAMs, with a payload totaling thousands of pounds, enough to penetrate hardened structures, including deeply reinforced underground facilities like those at Natanz. But tonight's mission wasn't just a long-range strike. It demanded more: absolute precision, flawless coordination, and the ability to approach dangerously close to the target. The pilots would need to get close enough to visually confirm the targets were fully neutralized, rather than relying solely on remote sensor data. The F-18 Super Hornet was the ideal aircraft for this kind of operation. A twin-engine, multi-role fighter known for its heavy payload capacity, durability, and reliable performance in complex combat environments. Its agility allows for rapid target switching, while its advanced avionics system processes battlefield data in real time. More importantly, the twin-engine design provides a higher level of safety during deep penetration missions into enemy territory, a critical factor when operating near the dense air defense systems protecting Natanz. At 5:24 p.m., the flight leader pushed the throttle forward. The twin F-414 engines responded almost instantly, generating over 44,000 pounds of thrust. Despite the heavy load, the F-18 accelerated powerfully down the runway, reaching takeoff speed, around 150 to 170 knots, before lifting off. The wingman followed just 10 seconds later, then the second pair with the same interval, a launch sequence timed down to the second. By 5:26 p.m., all 4 aircraft had formed up and climbed to 10,000 feet, maintaining strict tactical spacing. The mission profile required absolute timing, precision. The targets were no longer scattered civilian areas, but entirely focused on the Natanz nuclear complex, uranium enrichment facilities, technical support systems, and underground structures protected by multiple layers of reinforced concrete. Each aircraft had been assigned specific targets, carrying enough ordnance for multiple strike passes if needed. That also meant there was zero room for error. A delay of even a few seconds during weapons release, or the need to abort a single attack run, could jeopardize the entire operation. At 5:42 p.m., exactly 60 minutes before the first planned strike, public communication channels began issuing warnings related to the target area. This wasn't just information warfare, it also reflected how the U.S. applies international legal principles in modern combat. That 60-minute window wasn't only humanitarian, it also created analyzable behavior patterns. Every movement around Natanz became data, vehicle activity, evacuation efforts, or unusual silence in certain zones. In the air, the pilots held in a waiting pattern at around 28,000 feet, continuously monitoring encrypted tactical communications. Intelligence data from satellites and drones streamed in real time, providing a detailed picture of changes on the ground. These visuals didn't just confirm targets, they helped complete the battlefield picture as the decisive moment approached. Now, there was only one thing left to do: wait out the full 60 minutes before deploying one of the most powerful weapons in the U.S. arsenal. Mounted under each wing of the F-18 Super Hornet were GBU-31 JDAMs, not just weapons, but highly sophisticated systems. Each bomb weighed around 2,000 pounds and incorporated advanced guidance technology, costing hundreds of thousands of dollars apiece. But their true value wasn't in the price. It was in their near-perfect accuracy. Unlike traditional bombs that rely on a single guidance source, these weapons are built to operate in intense electronic warfare environments. Their primary guidance system uses GPS, allowing for highly accurate positioning. But that's only the first layer. Inside, an independent inertial navigation system, INS, takes over, using gyroscopes and accelerometers to track movement in 3-dimensional space. Even if GPS signals are jammed or completely knocked out, the INS can still guide the bomb close to its target, with an error margin of just a few dozen meters. The real advantage, though, comes from the layered, multi-source approach with continuous correction. Some advanced variants even include electro-optical or laser sensors, allowing for mid-course updates during the final phase of flight, ensuring maximum accuracy even if battlefield conditions change. During mission planning, detailed target data from the Natanz nuclear facility was loaded into the system, including precise coordinates for uranium enrichment sites, support infrastructure, and heavily reinforced underground structures. Once the weapon is released, everything happens fast. Dropping from tens of thousands of feet, the bomb dives at hundreds of meters per second, constantly updating its position, adjusting its trajectory, and locking onto its designated target. For anything below, time is essentially up. At exactly 6 p.m., the holding pattern ended. All 4 F-18 Super Hornets banked in unison and turned toward the Natanz nuclear facility, gradually descending from above 20,000 feet. Their speed picked up quickly as they entered the final approach phase. Beneath the aircraft, electronic warfare pods like the AN/ALQ-214-IDECM switched from standby to full operation. These systems carry massive libraries of electronic signatures, including the fingerprints of modern air defense radars. Almost immediately, the air defense network around Natanz responded. Surveillance and fire control radars began sweeping the sky, trying to detect and lock onto targets, but what they saw couldn't be trusted. A single F-18 might appear on radar in multiple locations at once, at different altitudes, speeds, even conflicting directions. One signal might show steady flight, while another suggests a sudden dive or climb. This wasn't a system glitch, it was the result of active electronic warfare. The jamming pods don't just blind radar, they manipulate it. Using DRFM technology, they capture incoming radar signals and retransmit them with subtle modifications. In other words, they don't destroy information, they distort reality. When a radar signal is sent out and reflected back, the DRFM system steps in, generating false targets with carefully calculated positions, speeds, and trajectories. This forces air defense systems into an almost unsolvable problem, figuring out what's real and what's an illusion. Over the next few minutes, while ground systems struggled to make sense of what they were seeing, the 4 F-18s moved closer than ever to their target, quietly, precisely, and almost impossible to stop. Every aspect of the radar signal, frequency, pulse width, modulation, was captured with exact precision. Then, the US electronic warfare system replayed multiple altered versions of those signals. Delay a signal by just 3 microseconds, and the radar thinks the target is nearly 900 meters farther away. Shift the frequency by a few hundred hertz, and the displayed speed becomes inaccurate. Layer enough false signals together, and the radar screen on the ground turns into chaos, like a completely distorted image. Meanwhile, inside the F-18 Super Hornets, the pilots closely monitored their radar warning receivers (RWR) as new threats kept popping up. A medium-range air defense radar began tracking them, triggering a sharp, high-pitched warning tone in their headsets. Instantly, the AN/ALQ-214-IDECM identified it as a priority threat and focused its jamming power on that specific frequency band. Within moments, the RWR display shifted from a solid lock to a broken signal. The tracking had been disrupted. But the most critical factor was coordination. All 4 F-18s weren't operating independently. They worked together as a unified electronic warfare system. The flight leader's aircraft acted like a beacon, broadcasting continuous, high-powered jamming across the most dangerous frequencies. The other 3 functioned more like fireflies, emitting short bursts of jamming that appeared and disappeared in unpredictable patterns. For the radar operators defending the Natanz nuclear facility, this created the illusion of far more targets than actually existed, possibly even an entire strike package approaching from multiple directions. On the ground, both air traffic control and air defense systems quickly became overwhelmed. Primary military signals turned unstable, with positions, altitudes, and speeds shifting in ways that made no sense. Phantom formations seemed to appear out of nowhere, streak across the screen at supersonic speeds, and vanish within seconds. Meanwhile, the real targets, the 4 F-18s, were perfectly hidden among dozens of false signals. By 6:12 p.m., the formation reached the weapon's release point. Below them was no longer civilian terrain, but the full expanse of the Natanz nuclear facility, technical complexes, layered defenses, and hardened underground structures. The flight split into two elements. The lead and wingman lined up on the main uranium enrichment sites, while the second pair diverted toward support facilities and auxiliary infrastructure. Each pilot ran through the sequence with exact precision: arm weapons, select ordnance, confirm release settings. Targeting pods like ATFLIR slewed onto the first objective, their infrared sensors cutting through dust and haze to produce images as clear as daylight. In their headsets, the pilots could hear enemy radar activity intensifying. Pulse repetition rates increased, scan patterns tightened. Clearly, something unusual had been detected below, even if the exact threat couldn't be pinned down. Still, the electronic warfare bubble held steady, covering the entire formation and keeping them concealed even at the most dangerous moment, right before weapons release. At 6:18 p.m., the lead pilot pressed the release button. The system confirmed separation, a clean drop. The F-18 immediately felt lighter, responding with a slight upward pitch. But the pilot didn't watch the bomb fall. He was already moving on to the next target, right on schedule. Seconds after release, the bomb deployed its guidance fins, transitioning from freefall to controlled flight. The GPS system quickly locked onto satellite signals, while the INS continuously updated position and velocity. The initial guidance solution showed just a few kilometers to the target. With impact time measured down to the second, the onboard computer instantly adjusted the flight path, refining glide angle, approach vector, and intercept point. Just 5 seconds later, the wingman released his weapon onto another target within the Natanz complex, a structure that appeared ordinary on the surface but, according to U.S. intelligence, housed critical infrastructure underground. In the final phase, the weapon's sensors activated, capturing high-resolution imagery of the target. Every movement, every change was tracked in real time. From that moment on, the outcome was essentially locked in. On the ground, things were turning chaotic. Roads around the Natanz facility quickly became congested, with vehicles crowding together in attempts to leave the area. Hundreds of heat signatures, both people and vehicles, moved erratically, clearly visible on reconnaissance systems. Some structures emitted unusually high heat compared to their surroundings, a strong indicator of active industrial or technical operations below ground. By 6:18 p.m., all 4 bombs were in the air, each homing in on its assigned target with near-perfect accuracy. The lead aircraft's second weapon targeted a technical site disguised as a support structure. The No. 2 pilot's second bomb aimed at what looked like a standard administrative building, but intelligence indicated critical operational layers beneath it. As the bombs descended to around 10,000 feet, onboard sensors came fully online. The entire Natanz complex came into view: rows of hardened buildings, internal road networks, and structures arranged in layered defensive patterns. Each bomb's computer continuously compared real-time imagery with preloaded data, pinpointing the exact target location in 3-dimensional space. At around 5,000 feet, GPS signals began to degrade. Ground-based electronic warfare systems attempted to spoof the guidance by broadcasting false signals, but the weapons control system quickly detected inconsistencies. GPS data no longer matched inputs from the INS and onboard imaging. Instantly, it switched to autonomous mode, discarding GPS entirely and relying solely on inertial tracking and real-time visual data. The final phase was where the weapon's full precision came into play. At around 1,000 feet, the sensors narrowed their field of view, locking tightly onto the designated target. The targeting algorithm began scanning for recognizable features, roof structures, ventilation systems, and the layout of the surrounding area. Once confidence reached its highest threshold, the bomb entered its final approach phase. The rear control fins made constant adjustments, deflecting up to 20 degrees and correcting course dozens of times per second. The fuse had been pre-programmed in delay mode, designed for hardened or deeply buried targets. That meant the bomb would penetrate before detonating, maximizing its ability to destroy underground structures. Just before 6:19 p.m., the first impact hit. A penetrator warhead, comparable to the BLU-109, slammed down at over 250 meters per second, punching through the roof with almost no resistance. It tore through the top floor, then the next, and the next. In a split second, it had driven deep into the lower levels before stopping at a critical structural point. Then it detonated. Inside the confined space of underground structures, the pressure had nowhere to go. Shock waves rebounded off reinforced concrete walls, amplifying the destructive force many times over. The structure above was violently pushed upward, like the lid of a pressure chamber being blown off. Seconds later, the second bomb hit, then the third, then the fourth. The overlapping shock waves interacted in complex ways. In some areas, they reinforced each other, creating maximum destruction. In others, they partially canceled out. By 6:20 p.m., the entire target area at the Natanz facility had been completely transformed. Multiple structures were destroyed or collapsed, while massive columns of smoke and dust rose into the air and spread outward. Secondary explosions continued inside, causing the smoke plumes to grow even larger, a clear sign that systems and materials underground were still reacting in a chain effect. The pilots never looked back to assess the damage. As soon as the weapons were released, they accelerated and turned toward a safe exit route. The F-18 Super Hornets dropped to lower altitude, flying terrain-following profiles to reduce detection, while the entire air defense network around Natanz activated at once. Electronic warfare pods ran at full power, continuously generating false targets behind them, making it nearly impossible for the enemy to distinguish real aircraft from decoys. Meanwhile, the formation quickly cleared the danger zone, heading toward a pre-planned exit corridor. At 6:42 p.m., while smoke and dust were still rising over Natanz, two US F-15E Strike Eagles approached at around 30,000 feet. This was the second wave, tasked with deep penetration strikes against hardened underground structures. The choice of the F-15E for this phase was purely technical. Delivering multi-thousand-pound bunker-buster bombs from high altitude requires an aircraft with powerful thrust, heavy payload capacity, and high stability. The F-15E's twin, F100PW229 engines produce nearly 58,000 pounds of thrust, enough to maintain speed and altitude, even under extreme weapon loads. Its two-seat configuration also maximizes combat effectiveness. The pilot up front focuses on flying, while the weapons systems officer in the back manages the APG, 70 radar, and targeting pods, ensuring precise navigation and weapon delivery. The F-15E isn't built for tight, agile maneuvers. It's a deep strike platform, designed for long-range, heavy payloads, and reinforced hardpoints, capable of carrying the heaviest weapons in the U.S. arsenal. Tonight, that weapon was the GBU-28. Each aircraft carried two. At around 5,000 pounds apiece, these aren't just bombs, they're massive penetrator warheads designed to destroy targets buried deep underground. Their casings are made from hardened alloy steel, capable of punching through meters of reinforced concrete or tens of meters of earth before detonating. Only aircraft like the F-15E can deploy them effectively. This time, the targets were deep beneath the Natanz facility, areas believed to house its most critical infrastructure, protected by multiple layers of hardened construction. The APG 70 radar switched to synthetic aperture SAR mode, scanning the entire target area and generating detailed terrain maps even in low-light conditions. By 6:44 p.m., the lead F-15E began its attack run. Unlike bombs dropped from medium altitude, the GBU-28 needs to be released from very high altitude to build up enough kinetic energy for penetration. Dropped from around 35,000 feet, it accelerated rapidly, reaching extreme velocity before impact. The pilot released both bombs in quick succession. A total of 10,000 pounds of ordnance separated from the aircraft, descending along precisely calculated trajectories. Initially, GPS and INS guided the bombs. Small control fins continuously adjusted their path to ensure accurate approach. At around 2,000 feet, the laser guidance system activated. The F-15E's targeting pod illuminated the exact impact point with a coded laser beam. The bomb seeker picked up the reflected signal and made final corrections, just a few meters, but at that speed, even the smallest error was unacceptable. Impact followed almost immediately. The first GBU-28 struck at over 300 meters per second, punching through layers of earth and rock with barely any loss of speed. It drove tens of meters underground before hitting the reinforced concrete of the buried structure. The thick concrete, designed to withstand conventional airstrikes, was quickly breached. The warhead continued deeper before the delay fuse began its countdown. Unlike standard bombs, The GBU-28 is programmed with a delay of about half a second, just enough time to ensure it's fully embedded inside the target before detonation. Then, it exploded underground. Roughly 630 kilograms of tritonal detonated in a confined space, generating immense pressure with nowhere to escape. Just 2 seconds later, the second bomb struck a different point within the same underground system. When those pressure zones intersected below ground, they created massive stress differentials, triggering a cascading destruction effect. Internal structures collapsed. Materials and fuel ignited in secondary explosions, turning the entire underground area into an extremely hostile environment, a sealed inferno beneath the surface. By 6:45 p.m., the most visible sign appeared. The ground above the target bulged upward, then collapsed, forming a massive crater dozens of meters across. Smoke, dust, and debris were blasted into the air, forming a thick column. Everything that had once existed below, equipment, infrastructure, entire systems, was now destroyed, buried, and mixed into the earth, as if it had never been there at all.